Today we've got a jam-packed show. We are talking the NFL Combine. I'm very excited to have this guest. He's the host of Locked On Cowboys, also Locked On Dynasty, also a writer for the 33rd team. He's one of the great ball knowers when it comes to the NFL Combine. He's had a very busy week covering the Combine. Marcus Mosher, thank you for joining us today, my man.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's Combine's always a fun week. I'm a little upset that I don't get to talk about my Luka Doncic now that he's on my Lakers.
We can pivot.
That's all right. I'm a Cowboy guy that's covering the Dallas Cowboys, but it's a Laker fan, so it always upsets my Locked On Cowboy listeners.
Hey, we love Nico Harrison here on the big lead. Okay, just let's end it at that. But hey, it's okay. Just join the purple and gold, man. Hey, you can just join us and it's all good. But Marcus, let's get right into this Combine because it's the underwear Olympics, right? They're not wearing pads, but it's about times and measurements. And you start with the quarterback position, of course. And you didn't see Jador throw. You didn't see Cam Ward throw. The measurement of Cam Ward's hands and Jador's hands and their size. Any big takeaways from that at all whatsoever? I mean, some people saying Cam Ward's size measured a little lower than expectations.
Yeah, I don't care about the hand size or the measurements too much. What I do care about is how the interviews went and people just talking about Cam Ward versus Shedeur Sanders. And it just seems like the more people you talk to from the Combine, the gap is pretty wide between Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders. I fully expect Cam Ward to be the number one pick in the upcoming draft. Now, to who? The Titans, the Browns, the Giants? I don't know yet, but I think Ward is going to be the number one pick. I don't know where Shedeur lands. I would think he's going to be a top 10 pick, but I don't think that's for certain at all. And I think coming out of the Combine, that's the consensus from most NFL people.
Yeah, what were the takeaways as far as the way he interviewed? We know the confidence is off the charts. You wouldn't expect anything less from Coach Prime's son, and that's just how he does. He plays with a lot of confidence. He believes in himself, and he realizes that, hey, there's going to be a lot of pressure on him because of the name on the back of his jersey. But is his stock going up, or is it kind of staying around the same in what is kind of widely considered not one of the strongest quarterback drafts that we've seen in the last couple of years?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think his stock is going up or down. I think that for the most part, these teams have known what they've thought about Shedeur Sanders for multiple years now. But now they get a chance to sit down with him, ask him questions, ask him how he would fit into their locker room, into their offense. And I think some of those interviews have been mixed. And that happens with every player, right? Not every player is going to gel with every coaching staff and every culture, every locker room. And I think you're starting to see some of those reports come out. Shedeur's going to be fine. Like, I'm not worried about him, but I do think we could be in for a little bit of a quote unquote draft day fall when maybe he's always somebody that should have been picked in the middle part of round one.
Where does your gut tell you right now as far as where he lands?
I think he lands. My gut still says the Raiders, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders are moving back a little bit and picking him. I do think we are going to see him fall further than maybe what people think.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. They could still end up with that team, but not at that pick. Now, as far as the quarterbacks that did throw, we saw Jackson Dart. He had a really solid showing there at the Senior Bowl. He threw. You saw him connect on some deep throws. He looked like he definitely increased his stock a little bit, and he looks like he's someone who could be picked in the first round.
Yeah, I'm not a Jackson Dart guy, but I know there's teams around the NFL that do like him. And because this quarterback class is not very deep. I mean, we talked about Cam Ward, Shedeur, and then I think there's a big drop off. They're good. There's a chance that Dart is just that next guy taken. And we have a lot of teams that have quarterback needs between the Titans, the Browns, the Giants, the Jets, the Raiders, the Steelers. It wouldn't shock me if he's somebody that got picked inside the top 40. I think that's a little bit of a reach there. But we know that quarterbacks go early, and it seems like around the NFL, Jackson Dart is viewed as that quarterback 3 in this class.
Now, as far as kind of one of the biggest risers, you saw Tyler Shuck. I mean, he really looked impressive. I mean, he's 25, so older than some of these other guys. Could be a day 1, day 2, day 3. It feels like there's a lot of mixed opinions about Shuck, but did his stock rise as much as it has for some for you?
I mean, seeing him run in the 4.6s was pretty incredible, considering all the lower body injuries he had. He was pumping up that crowd in Indianapolis, and I wonder, maybe he'll be doing that for that same city later this year. I think Tyler Shuck to the Colts in round 2, round 3 makes a lot of sense for a team that's still trying to figure out their quarterback situation. He's not going to be for everybody. He's a more traditional pocket passer, But again, in a not very good draft class, I could see him being a top 75 selection.
And are we making too much of the clip of Will Howard? And missing some throws?
Yes.
I mean, kind of went viral. Are we making too much?
Care.
Okay.
We don't care about what they do with throwing. They're throwing to new receivers. Go look at like what Bo Nix did last year. Throwing to the combine was awful. The problem with Will Howard, he's just not a great quarterback prospect. I think he's always been a day 3 guy, maybe a late day 2 guy. It's fine. Don't overreact by a couple throws against air with receivers you've never thrown passes to before.
Now, as far as the position player side, as far as the receivers go, Matthew Golden out of Texas. I mean, you saw his numbers, the 40-yard dash, a 4.29, the 1.49 second 10-yard split. It looked like he showed some explosion. What were your thoughts on some of the receivers and who really stood out to you?
Yeah, there was a couple draft or sports books that put out some draft odds. And Matthew Golden had a 4.30 40-yard dash over under. And I was telling all my buddies, like, hey, smash the over. There's no chance. This is like a 4.45 receiver. A 4.29 was shocking to me because I didn't see that on tape, right? Like you don't see that kind of speed. But now that he's checked that box, like you're starting to hear rumblings and whispers like, hey, Matthew Golden might be the first receiver drafted in this class. His teams are just not going to shy away from that type of speed with his ability to separate. I think he was somebody who was like a borderline first-round pick coming into the combine. And now I wonder, like, hey, could he potentially be a top 10 pick? It wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, his teammate Isaiah Bond, he was declaring, hey, I'm going to break the 40-yard dash record that was set by his former teammate Xavier Worthy. He didn't get close to it. He ran an official 4.3940, didn't even get close to that record. I mean, he did hit 24.17 miles per hour on the 40-yard dash. So according to Next Gen Stats, that was second, but it seemed like his stock kind of took a little bit of a hit, just not living up to those speed expectations that he had for himself, really.
Well, and that's the thing. You watch these Texas games, and it's undeniable who's the faster receiver on the field. You look at some of the pre-draft or pre-combine training that Bond was doing, some of his track numbers from high school. And yeah, we thought low 4.3s, maybe into the 4.2s. To see Matthew Golden beat him by, what was that, a tenth of a second, was shocking to me. Again, I don't want to overreact too much because it's just the combine. It's not that big of a deal. But I think Isaiah Bond, for how much he was talking up what he was going to do, it was a little disappointing.
Come on, Marcus, we're in the overreaction business, right? That's what we do, right? Especially Monday after the comp. No, but as far as a position player, receiver that kind of took a little hit, I mean, anyone, Tez Johnson, anyone that kind of stick out as far as guys that did not live up to their billing during the combine week?
I've got one for you. He didn't do anything. It's Tet McMillan from Arizona, who is widely believed to be the first receiver or the number 1 receiver in this class. He decided to do nothing at the NFL combine, and he's telling reporters that he's not going to do anything in his pro day either. I don't think that's a good decision because I don't think Tet is the cleanest receivers. I think he's got some maybe some issues with his long speed. The fact that he basically declined to do everything at the combine makes me wonder, like, maybe you're not the top receiver in this class. Maybe that has opened the door for Matthew Golden or Luther Burden or Emeka Egbuka to jump him. I thought he was a top 10 lock going into the combine, and now I'm wondering, like, maybe he is somebody that could be available in the late teens.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fantastic point. I mean, I look at a guy like that, T-Mac, and you say, wait, what program are you at? I mean, are you a Marvin Harrison Jr. where you can have that locked up? He doesn't feel like he's reached that status, but almost feels like he's kind of carrying himself in his plan of action towards the combine. The pro days is kind of like that.
Yeah, and I think this is an opportunity to remind the world, like, hey, I'm the best receiver in the class. We saw Luther Burden test. We saw Matthew Golden. We saw a lot of these receivers go out and have big days. The fact that he felt like he didn't need to is a little concerning for me.
Yeah, and as far as the running backs, I mean, the running backs were just on fire. I mean, the speed, I mean, it was nonstop. Under times, I think the one guy that stood out to me, first of all, I love the name, is Bashil Tootin, running back out of Virginia Tech. I mean, you look at the numbers that he put up. I mean, it was really incredible. I mean, a 4.32, that was the best at a combine since 23-13 for a running back. I mean, you look at his other numbers, really, really impressive. Travion Henderson, Quinyon Judkins. I mean, both excellent running backs at Ohio State, but who stood out as far as their RBs go?
Yeah, the last name that you mentioned, Quinyon Judkins. Like, we knew Travion Henderson was fast and that he was going to run fast, and he ran a 4.43. I don't think people were expecting Judkins to have a faster 10-yard split, which was the second fastest among all the running backs, 1.51, and to be significantly better in the explosion drills, the vertical jump, broad jump. I think Judkins who is pretty clearly a top 5 running back in this class, has now solidified himself as a second round pick at least. And now I'm wondering, because of his size, his power, his receiving ability, what the ceiling is here. There just aren't very many running backs that check as many boxes as he does. 3 years of production, 2 at Ole Miss, 1 at Ohio State. I think he's a fantastic back that could potentially be a top 40 pick.
Great combination of power and speed. I mean, he had the highest broad jump of any running back that tested at 11 feet, 38.5-inch vertical. I mean, this guy is an absolute freak. It's, I love it too. You look back and you're like, man, there's a reason why that team won the national championship, right? When you see the kind of talent. How about Jack Sawyer? I mean, you hear some of the stuff about some of the arm measurements and Campbell. Any of that kind of stuff stick out to you?
I mean, we knew he was a short-armed edge rusher, right?
Yeah.
But he's just a playmaker. You turn on the tape and you watch any of these big games, whether it's Michigan, the game against Texas, he finds ways to make plays. Now, I don't think he's a first-round pass rusher, but I think somebody's going to get a heck of a player on day 2 that can play either defensive end spots, can drop into coverage, can make plays against the run. I think he's just going to be a sound football player for the next 6 to 8 years. I think he'll be a good value inside the top 75.
Okay, now we got to talk about Abdul Carter. I mean, that's kind of one of the big hot topics leading into it. And Carter was widely considered to be possibly the number 1 pick. I mean, at least top 3. And then it was revealed that he did have a stress reaction in his foot. Drew Rosenhaus is saying that he's confident he's going to be able to go on his pro day. It's going to be a non-factor for the team that drafts him, that he's going to put on a show during his pro day. Do you make anything of this injury as far as his stock goes?
No, not too much, because if you liked Abdul Carter before, you're not dropping him down because of an off-season injury. If I were Drew Rosenhaus, I would tell Abdul, hey, you don't need to test at your pro day. You're fine. Like, everybody sees the tape. They know how athletic you are. Your floor is like 3 in the draft. I mean, maybe 2. Like, I just can't see him falling very far. The most important thing is to make sure that Abdul Carter is healthy for week 1. And it doesn't sound like that's going to be an issue. He doesn't need surgery, but I don't think he needs to push this to try to prove that that he should be worthy of the number 1 pick. His tape speaks for itself. I'm glad to hear that he's going to be okay though.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that him put on the full court press was a little much. It's not like he was defending him like he was Willis McCahey all those years ago after a catastrophic knee injury. He's going to be just fine. He's still an elite prospect for sure. Couple quick ones for you, and I want to hit you with this one. Who do you think is the most overrated player that could be picked in the first round of this draft?
That's a really, really good question. Well, I mean, I think if Jackson Dart goes in round 1, that's just a reach, but overrated. All right, I'll give you one. I just don't see it with James Pierce, the Tennessee edge rusher. I know that he had a heck of a performance at the NFL Combine. He ran in the 4.4s at 247 pounds. But you turn on the tape and he doesn't bend particularly well. He doesn't play the run well. Actually, Tennessee took him off the field on rundowns. He's got some off-the-field questions. Like, I know the sack totals are good, but I don't see a guy that's like a slam dunk first-round pick. To me, that's somebody that should go in the second round. I just don't get it.
Now, as far as the most underrated, anyone stick out? Anyone you got?
Can I go, like, we're doing just first round?
You can just throw it, yeah, whatever you got. I mean, it could be later than that, too. A little sleeper pick.
Let's go really deep.
Let's go super deep. I want to, we'll clip this just in case. I mean, he goes a Hall of Famer one day, we're going to play this for him.
Dante Thornton, a wide receiver from Tennessee, on the consensus board going into the week was 327. Frankly, I'm shocked that he got an invite to the NFL Combine, but he averaged 25 yards a catch for Tennessee this season. He came in at the NFL Combine 6'5", 206 pounds, and ran a 4.30. He is the fastest player in NFL history, over 6'4", running a sub 4.35 40-yard dash. I mean, unbelievable. This is somebody that could be, for some ball knowers out there, like the next Martavis Bryant, this vertical downfield threat receiver. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets drafted in day 2 because he's got rare traits.
I like that Martavis Bryant comp for sure. Where'd he go? He was a Clemson dude, right? I think.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah. Clemson was just recruiting like crazy, still are, actually, to be honest. Now, as far as your boys, you're the host of Locked On Cowboys. What do you want to see your Cowboys do in the draft early on?
Well, just this offseason, I would like to see them act like a competent, organized franchise, right? Like, sign the guys that need to be signed. Don't don't have a lot of drama. Like, you're going to sign Micah Parsons. We don't need to have this thing be drawn out through the media for the next 6 months. Just get him signed, get it done with. In the draft, I would love for them to either grab a receiver, whether it's Ted McMillan. I'm a huge Luther Burden fan. That's the guy that I want at 12. But if it's not a receiver, go to the defensive line. Shamar Stewart had an outstanding day. I think he would be a guy that would be considered at 12. Mykel Williams would make some sense. Jalen Walker. But more than anything, just be a competent, respectable franchise for once.
Awesome. And last question here. What was the reaction on your face when you looked at your phone, you saw that Luka Doncic had been traded to the Lakers?
So first of all, I didn't see it until the morning.
Okay.
I just got done watching that.
You had to wake up to that? That's terrible. That's terrible.
No, I didn't. I got it up in the morning and I got like a million texts saying, you just look at your phone. You're gonna be shocked. I just joy. I'm just so happy every night watching Luka. There's so many times I'm watching my Lakers and it's just like I'm giggling because some of the stuff that Luka is doing, it's so much fun to have Luka on my Lake.
I like it. And you're not going to be a popular guy rocking the Lakers Luka jersey around Dallas. I mean, you might have to give that a little bit of time. I mean, maybe, who knows? But definitely go give this guy a follow. One of the great draft combine ball knowers in the game, Marcus Mosher. You can follow him over on the X. He also works for Locked On Cowboys and also Team 33. So definitely go check that out. Marcus, we really appreciate your time, man. Go get some rest, man. You've been just burn that midnight oil following this draft, my man. Take it easy.
Thanks. Appreciate it.